Hi.
Hello.
We're going to continue with Ray's take on the different ways that ex-witnesses try to publicize their disagreements with the Watchtower when they leave. Ray says, some have terminated their affiliation with the witness organization. I'm going to read that again. Some who have terminated their affiliation with the witness organization have engaged in picketing of kingdom halls or assemblies of Jehovah's Witnesses, have engaged in unusual tactics evidently designed to gain the attention of the news media. This is nothing new. Persons opposed to the Watchtower organization have been doing this from the time I was a child, half a century ago. In the case of some involved, I know that their sole motive is to bring certain injustices and misrepresentations to light. I cannot answer as to the motive of others. In either case, I am not attempting to pass any judgment on them themselves in saying that I personally view such methods as not only counterproductive, but also as reflecting unfavorably on the one we are committed to serve, Christ Jesus. There can be a difference between publishing and publicity. It is always good to publish truth, but in seeking publicity for publicity's sake does little or nothing as far as publishing truth is concerned. It frequently only publicizes the unusual antics, the more extreme and sensational slogans used, and the dissidents existing, while any worthwhile message that comes through is usually infinitesimal.
Interviews by the news media have the potential for accomplishing considerable good in bringing facts to the attention of a large number of people. I have, in the past, acceded to interviews requested by the news media. At the same time, I have never solicited a single interview, and I have turned down far more requests than the few I accepted. My personal experience has been that the results are rarely satisfying. All too often, what is sought is something of a sensational nature, which does little for the advancement of the good news. In one radio interview that I accepted, originating in Florida, the interviewer employed continual sarcasm and exaggeration in his references to Jehovah's Witnesses and their beliefs and conduct. I spent virtually the entire program in defending them, expressing my conviction as to their overall sincerity and decency, and in pointing out to the interviewer the way in which his remarks distorted matters and unfairly cast them in a false light. I was happy to make those expressions and found that the only satisfying part of the experience.
Basically, then, I sympathize with the concern, even the indignation some feel, and I feel a similar concern. But I do not necessarily sympathize with the methods that are sometimes used to express those feelings. I am convinced of the rightness of the Apostles' counsel. And here he's quoting James 1:19 and 20 from the New English Bible. Each of you must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to be angry. For a man's anger cannot promote the justice of God.
We have to confess something, don't we? We're among these folks that did the picketing.
Did the picketing, yes.
Back around from 1988 through about 93, I suppose. Mm-hmm. 4 or 5 times we went and picketed the 2 biggest sports arenas in the Toronto area. Mm-hmm. And another one in Hamilton, as I recall now.
Yeah.
We thought at the time that we had no other voice. There was no internet. Mm-hmm. And there were very little in the way of JW support groups.
Yeah, we did feel I especially was just aching to say something, to say my family and the friends we left and the witnesses. Many of them did not even know the reasons why we left, and you're not given a chance to tell anyone the reasons for your leaving. So for me, I just felt voiceless. I felt like I had no way of reaching those people that I loved. And so that seemed like a way to do it. I remember even when people said, you're picketing, I would say, no, it's a demonstration of love. And I know that doesn't wash for a lot of people. But that really was my motivation. I love the people. I also didn't want other people to be in the situation I was in and go into this group.
Mm.
So when we did go, in addition to the signs that we held up, and we tried to make them positive, a lot of them were positive. We love Jehovah's Witnesses, read the Bible.
Not the Watchtower?
So there's always a little edge there, but we did try and make sure that they realized from the message that we cared about the people.
Now, it's true we didn't get much response there, except one fellow who phoned us up.
Yeah.
And that was great, and he wanted to know more, and he didn't join the Watchtower even though he was studying at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do recall there were some nasty remarks made by passing witnesses,
Mm-hmm.
and one of our girls that was with us, who was an ex-witness, got spat at
By her
own
relative,
brother.
yeah.
And
that
so
was
there
nice.
was bad stuff that happened that came of it. But on the other hand, the newspapers did pay attention.
Yeah, and we always brought with us some tracts and information for the public, because it was the public that would come up to you and say, what are you doing here? Why are you doing this? And so we had some information that we could give them that would just give them the basic history of the Watchtower, so as to warn them. Really, I felt people did need a warning.
And it all led, ultimately, a few years later, to TV interviews and documentaries and a radio spot for you, and then more TV stuff as the Waco situation
Yeah.
came along. We were viewed as somewhat, experts in Southern Ontario
Yeah,
on the subject of
because
cults.
we were interviewed at that one of those first conventions we were giving a demonstration of love to. People in the media world found out about us, so we were often used as the reference point for other groups too, not just the witnesses,
Yeah.
but just for cults in general. So we had the media visit our bookstore and see the expansive library that we had at the back of the store, which had information about all different religions
10,000 books.
and new religious groups, and so they could see you were serious, and it wasn't just all negative stuff. It was source material, the group's own material.
It was serious research, and the media do like that. They do admire that.
Yeah.
So your experience on the radio was different than
Yeah.
Ray Franz's too.
You know, they had phoned up the office, and I accepted to go on the program. There was we had just been involved in the making of a documentary that featured us as well as a number of other people, and then we were asked if I would go on the radio. I don't know why you didn't go on, but they asked if I would go on the radio program. And I was told by others after already accepting it, oh, you don't know what you've done, they're going to eat you alive.
This particular radio host had a reputation for snarkiness, like
Yeah.
this guy here that Ray talks about.
Yeah. So, but what happened when I got there, also, I don't think people should tell you how many people are actually listening to you when you're on there.
This was
that
on-
just scared me to death.
This was on Canada's biggest radio station.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
Well, so anyways, when I did go, I also was able to have with me somebody who had just left Bethel, having been a witness for 50 years. So
just out, right?
Yeah, just out, like a couple weeks, I think. He came as well, and so he interviewed both of us. That was very helpful, but the thing that won the day, I guess, as far as the interviewer, he was able to watch the documentary. I hadn't even seen it yet, but he was able to watch it ahead of time because of this interview. The person who was doing it, the producer of it, said yes, he could watch it. And he said, having watched it, he felt differently about witnesses. He'd always kind of pushed them away and felt contempt for them. But having watched the documentary, he suddenly felt some sympathy for them. So he was very nice to talk to. He did not, I think he put us both at our ease, and even in between, during commercials and that, we continued to talk. He was very nice. You know, I was pleased with it.
Now, I wanted to attach to one of the videos, one of the signs we used at those district conventions back then. We still have those signs, by the way. And we actually featured one of them in a video about Dwayne McNanny's work. And so we'll put that up on your screen, which is 4 generations of Jehovah's Witnesses have perished. Don't be the 5th.
In a false hope, yeah.
Perished in a false hope. Don't be the 5th.
Right. And then we were going to link another one, which is about Paul being slandered by the Jews, his fellow Jews.
Paul going to Jerusalem the last time and running into the inevitable trouble that the Spirit had told him would happen, but he did it.
Yeah.
So confrontation is not something Christians have to avoid all the time. So I guess I guess we feel somewhat different than Ray on this subject.
Yeah.
Ray tends to be very mild-mannered.
Yeah, and I think maybe, you know, there is some force to what he says, depending on how you do it.
Yeah.
If it's done with ridicule or with anger, it's not going to be very effective. But I think if you do it quietly, with you know, a pleasant demeanor and not, you know, we were very respectful. We stayed across the street from them. We notified the police beforehand that we were going to be there, and it went very smoothly.
And there is a precedent for not hostility, certainly not mutual hostility, but there is a precedent in the Bible for demonstration. And maybe we'll do a video or two on that subject. But Christ, of course, couldn't avoid confrontation all the time.
Yeah.
And he did it in the right spirit all the time. But sometimes it got downright dangerous,
I
as
mean,
it did with Paul.
With the turning over the table, some might think, oh,
Provocative.
well, that's awful provocative for Jesus.
Yeah. So that video's up. The 4 generations have died in false hope. Don't be the 5th.
Yeah.
And what's the
Jews,
other one called?
Jews slander Paul.
The Jews slandered Paul. His last visit to Jerusalem, Acts 21.